Hello everyone and welcome to another video breakdown. I'm Matt the Jerk with Dynasty Owner and let's jump into it. So today we're going to be talking about the Chicago Bears. We're going to quickly go through them. So the Bears finished 8-8 last season, mainly due to their defense. Their defense was pretty efficient. They ranked in the top half of least total yards and least total points scored. So very efficient on the defensive side. Can't really say as much on the offensive side, at least for the passing game. The running game was decent, but they have a lot to make up coming into the 2021 season, to say the least. So today I'm going to talk about two different players. The first one we're going to talk about is David Montgomery. So being a Bears breakdown, I really wanted to get Justin Fields into the mix somehow. It just wasn't possible. I mean, I'd be massively speculating on really no statistics at all other than his college. So I'll break down him probably maybe halfway through the season, at least if he plays a little bit. We'll see how that goes. So we're talking about David Montgomery. Does anybody know where he finished in Dynasty Owner last year? Running back what? I took a guess, and it wasn't even close before I started this article. So my guess was running back 9. He actually finished running back 4. Pretty unbelievable to think that he finished the top 5 running back in Dynasty Owner. And a lot of it had to do with his final 6 games. I'm going to share those on the screen here with you so you can see how amazing they were. Just look at those stats. 11 carries, 17, 11, 32, 23, 22. Especially in the last 3 games, he really turned it on. He actually had a touchdown in every single game over the last 6 weeks, so very impressive. He looks to, obviously continue that going as we go into 2021. What I did was I compared him to some of his peers, some of the players around him. Scroll down, you can take a look at that. There was only one other player who had a better Dynasty dollar per fantasy point finish than David Montgomery, and that was James Robinson, just because of his insanely cheap salary. But if you look at it, he's obviously number 2, running back 2 as far as value goes, right at $3,700. He finished of anybody on this list with the most fantasy points total, and then he obviously had the highest salary. So with that higher salary, he had to make up a little bit of ground to become second for the Dynasty dollar for fantasy point finish. And we'll just talk about that. I mean, he makes about a third less from what Myles Gaskin does. So Myles Gaskin makes about 65% of what Monty does. And so, like I said, in order for Montgomery to have to overcome that gap, that 5% gap, he had to produce at least 250 fantasy points, which we can clearly see he did here. He produced almost 270. So the biggest question is, do we expect to continue? I expect him to be a value coming into 2021. I don't think he'll be as much of a value, though. It's going to be hard to recreate that. And one thing that I conveniently left out is the fact that Tarik Cohen missed almost the entire season. He tore his ACL in week 3, never returned, obviously, with an injury that severe. So Cohen's going to take touches away from Montgomery, especially receptions. Cohen's a very good receiving back. What do we think as far as projections go? Well, we know that he's not in my top 10 for value of running backs, or else he would have been in my article about a month ago. But I expect he'll probably be in the top 20. I mean, with the salary that cheap and being your team's lead running back, there's no way he couldn't be a top 20 value as long as he stays healthy. Next, let's talk about Allen Robinson. So I'm just going to quickly talk about him real quick. So Allen Robinson, let's get down to his stats here. He signed a franchise tag. We all know that. He signed that earlier this offseason, a little bit less than $18 million per year. And here's how he compares to other players. And full disclosure for this chart, I'm using the current salaries of players. So actually in 2022, if you look at who we're going to look at here. So we can look at Robert Woods. So he made less than that. Coming into 2021, he's going to be making more. And so this is taking his 2021 salary compared to his 2020 stats. Pretty similar thing that I do in most of my articles. But I just want you to make sure you know this aren't the exact Dynasty dollar for fantasy point that he had in 2020. This will be projecting it for 2021 if he kept the same total points. So we look at it, and Allen Robinson falls right in the middle for Dynasty dollar per fantasy point. And what do we notice right away? Well, same thing as Montgomery. He has the most fantasy points of any of these players, and he has the higher salary. So he falls right in the middle there. What else can we talk about for him? Well, we know that he is going to probably a top 20 producing wide receiver when the season's said and done. But how does that relate to value? I think he'll still be a top 20 value. For my top 10 list that I put out I guess it'd be last month, we had a few high wide receivers, more than running backs for sure. I believe we had Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, just to name a few. So Robinson isn't going to be in that tier. He makes a little bit less than Hill, a little bit more than Adams, but I don't think he's going to be as productive as those two. So he's going to fall kind of into maybe the second tier of expensive salaries. I guess that's a good way to put it. He's going to be owned, obviously owned in 100% of leagues. He'll probably end the season top 10 in terms of fantasy points total goes, but we know with that almost $18 million salary, it's going to drive his value down big time. What else do we want to talk about? Let's talk about how he compares to every other player on this list, all these other 5. So we got 2 Rams on there. Like I said, he has the most fantasy points of any player in 2020. I project he'll have the most fantasy points in 2021 as well. But he also has the highest salary. So take that for what it is. I would draft Allen Robinson above any other player on this list. I don't know about you, but I think he is clearly the best. How do I say it? He's going to be the highest ceiling player, I think, especially in terms of volume goes. You got Kupp and Woods competing against each other. Allen Robinson's clearly the one of that team. Brandon Cooks, I don't know. I just don't trust, obviously, the quarterback situation and then the player. He's been pretty shaky, pretty inconsistent over the past couple of seasons. He usually finished the season well, but just, as the season goes, he's not as consistent on a game-to-game basis. And then Mike Evans, nothing wrong with Mike Evans, but there's a lot of mouths to feed in Tampa Bay now. And I just think Robinson's going to get the majority of the work in Chicago. I'll probably see at least a 20% target share from all the players that he's competing against. I think that's it. So just want to talk about those 2 players with you today. Go ahead and message me on Twitter if you have any questions, concerns at Dynasty Jerk. You can see at the bottom there of your screen. And then go ahead and follow us at Dynasty Owner on Twitter, and then subscribe to Dynasty Owner on YouTube as well. We appreciate everything that you guys do. I think that's it. So everybody take care and be safe.